हेलो, दिस वीडियो इज फॉर पॉलिटी रिवीजन। कोशिश करेंगे चैप्टर 1 से चैप्टर 20 तक का एम लक्ष्मीकांत कवर करें। शुरू करते हैं हिस्टोरिकल बैकग्राउंड से। 1765 में कंपनी गॉट दीवानी ऑफ बंगाल, बिहार एंड ओडिशा। 1858 में ब्रिटिश क्राउन टुक डायरेक्ट रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। पहले हैं कंपनी रूल। शुरू करते हैं रेगुलेटिंग एक्ट ऑफ 1773 से, जिसमें गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ बंगाल वॉरेन हेस्टिंग, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ कैलकाटा 1774, कोर्ट ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स सीओडी गवर्निंग बॉडी बनी। अमेंडिंग एक्ट ऑफ 1781, जिसे एक्ट ऑफ सेटलमेंट भी कहा गया है। पिट्स इंडिया एक्ट 1784, जिसमें डुअल गवर्नमेंट और कंपनीज की टेरिटरीज को ब्रिटिश पोजेशन कहा गया। 1786 ओवरराइडिंग पावर्स मिली गवर्नर जनरल को। चार्टर एक्ट 4 आए। 1793 चार्टर एक्ट ऑफ 1793 दैट ट्रेड मोनोपोली एक्सटेंडेड फॉर 20 years. BOD, that is Board of Directors, were paid out of Indian revenue. 1813 में abolished trade monopoly except tea and trade with China. Christian missionaries were allowed and Western education was promoted. 1833 Governor General of India William Bentinck got exclusive powers with regard to regulations and act. 1853 में, जिसको constitutional landmark भी कहा गया है, Charter Act of 1853 added 6 new members, also referred to as mini parliament or Indian Legislative Council. 4 members were selected from local government of Madras, Bombay, Bengal and Agra. ओपन कंपटीशन मैक्युलेट कमेटी के रिकमेंडेशन के अंडर। द क्राउन रूल, जो शुरू होता है गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट 1858 से। एक्ट फॉर गुड गवर्नेंस abolished EIC, ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी, एंड गेव ऑल इट्स पावर और ट्रांसफर्ड ऑल इट्स पावर टू ब्रिटिश क्राउन। वॉइस रॉय कैनिंग बने वॉइस रॉय ऑफ इंडिया, लॉर्ड कैनिंग। सेक्रेटरी ऑफ स्टेट ऑफ इंडिया एंड 15 मेंबर्स टू असिस्ट। बात करें इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट की, तो 3 आए इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट। पहली 1861 में, जिसमें इंडियंस इन लॉ मेकिंग प्रोसेस, 3 इंडियंस आए इंडियन लॉ मेकिंग प्रोसेस में, राजा ऑफ बनारस, महाराजा ऑफ पटियाला एंड सर दिनकर राव। डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन हुआ, पोर्टफोलियो सिस्टम कैनिंग ने इंट्रोड्यूस किया और ऑर्डिनेंस पावर मिली गवर्नर जनरल को। 1892 इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट ऑफ 1892, indirect provision of election were introduced. Function of legislative council increased. It could discuss and address budget and address question. 1909 में, जिसे मॉर्लेमेंटो रिफॉर्म भी कहा गया है, इसमें लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल की साइज इंक्रीज कर दी गई फ्रॉम 16 to 60. लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल कैन नाउ आस्क सप्लीमेंट्री क्वेश्चन एंड मूव रिजोल्यूशंस. वाइसरॉय एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल, जिसमें सत्येंद्र प्रसाद सिन्हा who joined as law member. सेपरेट इलेक्टोरेट फॉर मुस्लिम्स वर इंट्रोड्यूस्ड। फिर आते हैं गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट 1919 में, जिसे मॉन्टेग्यू चेम्सफोर्ड रिफॉर्म भी कहा गया है। प्रोविंशियल सब्जेक्ट्स और डायरार्की वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड, divided into preserved and transferred list. Bicameralism and separate budget for center and provinces. Direct election introduce हुआ और 3/6 members of Viceroy Executive Council were to be Indians. Extended communal representation to Indian Christian, Anglo-Indians and Europeans and Sikhs. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट 1935, जिसे जो सेकंड माइलस्टोन भी है, जिसमें कंप्लीट रिस्पॉन्सिबल गवर्नमेंट इन इंडिया एस्टैब्लिश हुई। ऑल इंडिया फेडरेशन को हटाया गया, एबोलिश्ड डायरार्की एंड इंस्टेड प्रोविंशियल ऑटोनॉमी इंट्रोड्यूस की गई। डायरार्की एट सेंटर, कम्युनल रिप्रेजेंटेशन इंक्रीज टू वुमेन एंड लेबर, फ्रेंचाइजी एक्सटेंडेड टू 10% पॉपुलेशन। फेडरल कोर्ट एस्टैब्लिश्ड इन 1937। मेकिंग ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, स्ट्रेंथ थी 389, जिसमें से 296 वर फ्रॉम ब्रिटिश इंडियन प्रोविंसेस and 93 from princely states. British India provinces में 292 were from 11 governor province and 4 from chief election provinces. First meeting हुई December 9, 1946 को। Objective resolution पास हुआ 13 December 1946 को और adopt हुआ 22 January 1946 को। Enactment first reading हुई 4 November 1948 से 9 November 1948 तक। Second reading 15 November to 17 October 1948. Third reading 14 November to 26 November 1949. अब तक 395 articles और 8 schedules बन चुके थे। Constitution enforce हुआ 26 जनवरी 26 जनवरी 1950 को। 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976, which is also called Mini Constitution, added CIS, Socialist, Integrity and Secular. DPSP, जिसे नोवेल फीचर भी कहा गया है, पार्ट 4 में आता है। मिनर्वा मिल्स केस 1980, Constitution founded on bedrock of balance between fundamental rights and DPSP. Fundamental Duties, Part 4A, 51A Article. Recommendation of Swaran Singh Committee. 61st Constitutional Amendment Act आया 1988 में, that reduced voting age to 18. 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1992, Panchayats, Part 9 और Schedule 11. 74th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992 inserted municipalities, Part 9A and Schedule 12. 97th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2011, Cooperative Societies, Part 9B. बात करें प्रियम्बल की, विच इज नॉन जस्टिशिएबल। नेचर है इसका सोवरेन, सोशलिस्ट, सेक्युलर, डेमोक्रेटिक, रिपब्लिक। ऑब्जेक्टिव है जस्टिस, लिबर्टी, इक्वालिटी, फ्रेटर्निटी। अडॉप्ट हुआ था 26 नवंबर 1949 को। पार्ट है या नहीं? 1960 में बेरूबरी यूनियन केस सेड नो। 1973 केसवानंदा भारती केस, yes, preamble is a part of constitution. 1995 में LIC of India केस expressed preamble as integral part of constitution. Avdi Session 1955, Establishment of Socialist Pattern of Society, Article 326, Adult Suffrage, Union and its territories, under Article 1 to Article 4. Article 4 says laws under Article 2 and 3 not to be considered amendments to Article 368. Prior permission of President is required, but he is not bound. Done through simple majority. Ceding of territory to foreign state requires amendment to Article 368. Settlement of boundary is done through executive action. 100th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2015, exchange of territories with Bangladesh. During independence, British provinces थे 17 और princely states थे 552. 1950 में 4 क्लासिफिकेशन हुआ। पार्ट ए जिसमें गवर्नर प्रोविंसेस आए, पार्ट बी प्रिंसली स्टेट विद लेजिस्लेचर, पार्ट सी कमिश्नर प्रोविंसेस एंड पार्ट डी अंडमान एंड निकोबार एज सॉलिटरी। लिंग्विस्टिक प्रोविंसेस कमीशन जून 1948 में धर कमीशन आई जिसने बोला रिड्रॉवल ऑफ स्टेट्स थ्रू। लिंग्विस्टिक प्रोविंसेस कमीशन की बात करें तो जून 1948 में धर कमीशन विच फोकस्ड ऑन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कन्वीनियंस एंड रिजेक्टेड लैंग्वेज। 1948 दिसंबर में जेवीपी कमीशन विच आल्सो रिजेक्टेड लैंग्वेज। 1952 में डेथ ऑफ पोटी श्रीरामल्लू इन आंध्र प्रदेश ड्यू टू 56 डेज फास्ट, और उसी के कारण दिसंबर 1953 में फजल अली कमीशन आई जिसमें फजल अली, के.एम. पानीकर एंड एच.एन. हुंजरो मेंबर्स थे जिन्होंने बोला लैंग्वेज एज द बेसिस। स्टेट्स रीऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक्ट आया 1956 में और 7th कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट ऑफ 1956 जिसमें तब तक 14 स्टेट्स और 6 यूटीज थे नवंबर 1 1956 को। 69th कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट के अकॉर्डिंग एनसीआर दिल्ली बनी। बात करें सिटीजनशिप की सो आर्टिकल 5 टू आर्टिकल 11 पार्ट 2 में आती है। राइट्स डिनाइड टू फॉरेन एलियंस 15, 16, 19, 29, 30, 15, 16, 19, 29, 30। राइट्स अवेलेबल टू बोथ 14, 20, 21, 21A, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28। ठीक है। सिटीजनशिप एक्ट 1955, एक्विजिशन एंड लॉज ऑफ सिटीजनशिप। एक्विजिशन ब्रांड BRAND, बर्थ, रजिस्ट्रेशन, एक्विजिशन, नेचुरलाइजेशन, डिसेंट, स्पेशल प्रोविजन अकॉर्डिंग टू असम अकॉर्ड। लॉस ऑफ सिटीजनशिप DRT, डेप्राइवेशन, रेनुंसिएशन एंड टर्मिनेशन। 2000 में कमिटी ऑन इंडियन डायस्पोरा, LM सांघवी कमिटी। 2002 में PIO, पर्सन ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन। 2005 में OCI, ओवरसीज सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया। 2005 में बोथ वर मर्ज्ड इनटू OCIC। फंडामेंटल राइट्स क्रोनोलॉजी के लिए आप EFERER याद रखें। आर्टिकल 12 टू आर्टिकल 35 पार्ट 3। 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978 deleted right to property and made it legal right under 300A part 12. Article 13, judicial review includes permanent laws, temporary laws, statutory instruments, non-legislative source of law. Right to equality from Article 14 to Article 18. Rule of law according to A.V. Dicey, absence of arbitrary power, equality before law. Constitution is a result of rights of individuals, but only 1 and 2 is applicable in India. And the third one, India says Constitution, according to India, Constitution is source of individual rights, not result of rights of individual. Article 361, President and Governor enjoy immunity. Article 105, no member of Parliament liable to any proceedings. Article 31C says the laws made for implementation of DPSP cannot be challenged for violation of Article 14. ओबीसी की बात करें तो मंडल कमीशन 1979 में आई अंडर मोरारजी देसाई गवर्नमेंट। 23% रिजर्वेशन फॉर ओबीसी, एसटी, एससी एंड ओबीसी 50%। वीपी सिंह गवर्नमेंट डिक्लेयर्ड रिजर्वेशन। नरसिम्हा राव गवर्नमेंट इकोनॉमिक क्राइटेरिया लाया 27% का एंड 10% ईडब्ल्यूएस, बट इट वाज नॉट एक्सेप्टेड। रामनंदन कमिटी आइडेंटिफाई क्रीमी लेयर। एनसीबीसी नेशनल कमीशन फॉर बैकवर्ड क्लासेस 1993 अकॉर्डिंग टू 102nd कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट ऑफ 2018 granted constitutional status to NCBC under Article 338B. 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act of 2019, 10% reservation for EWS. Protection of Civil Rights Act 1955, untouchability. Freedom of religion from Article 19 to Article 22. Article 19 says protection of 6 rights. आप परम से याद रख लें। Article 20, protection in respect of conviction of offence. No ex post facto law, no double jeopardy, no self-incrimination. Article 21, protection of life and personal liberty. गोपालन केस 1950 में state can deprive rights of individual. मेनका गांधी केस 1978 expressed state can deprive right but should be reasonable and fair. 86th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002, education for all. Right to act आया 2009. Rights of person detained or arrested under preventive detention cannot exceed 3 months unless advised. Ground to be communicated. Make representation against detention. It is available to both citizen and aliens. Preventive detention is integral part of Constitution and it exists only in India. Laws under preventive detention: MISA 1971, NSA 1980, TADA 1995 and POTA 2002. Right against exploitation, Article 23 and Article 24. Article 23 says prohibit traffic in human and forced labor. Article 24 prohibit employment of children in factory below 14 years of age. Child and Adolescent Act 1986 आया. Right to freedom of religion. Article 25 to Article 28. Article 25 says freedom of conscience and propagation of religion, which is individualistic right. Article 26 manage religious affairs, which is collective freedom. Article 25 is individual freedom and Article 26 is collective freedom. Article 27 freedom from taxation for promotion of religion. Article 28 freedom from attending religious instruction. 48 talks about four types of educational institutions: wholly maintained by state, administered by state and established under endowment or trust, recognized by state or receiving aid from state. Cultural and educational rights. Article 29 to Article 30. Article 29 says protection of interest of minorities and also majorities. Article 30 minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. It is only for minorities. Three types के हैं: recognized and receiving aid from state, only recognized, nor aid nor recognition. First two में they can be regulated. Right to constitutional remedies. Article 32, which is considered heart and soul. Right to move to Supreme Court suspended by President during national emergency under Article 359. 5 टाइप के रिट्स होते हैं: प्रोहिबिशन, हेबियस कॉर्पस, सर्शियोरी, क्यू वारंटो, मैंडमस. प्रोहिबिशन टू फॉरबिड, इट कैन बी इशूड अगेंस्ट जुडिशियल, क्वासी जुडिशियल बॉडी. इट इज प्रिवेंटिव. हेबियस कॉर्पस टू हैव अ बॉडी ऑफ, it can be issued against private or public. Certiorari to be informed, preventive, and also it is curative. It can be issued against administrative, judicial or quasi-judicial body. Quo warranto, what authority? It can be issued against public authority. Mandamus, we command against public. Article 33, which talks about armed forces and fundamental rights, only parliament is empowered. It also covers non-combatants. Article 34, martial law and fundamental rights. Martial law is nowhere defined in constitution. Exceptions to fundamental rights. Article 31A, saving laws providing for acquisition of state. Article 31B, validation of certain acts and regulations under 9th schedule. I.R. Coelho case, no blanket immunities for the laws under 9th schedule. Laws placed under 9th schedule after 24th April 1973 are open to challenge if they violate fundamental rights under Article 14, 15, 21, 21. Article 19, 21. Article 31C, saving laws giving effect to certain directive principles specified in Article 39B and C, inserted through 25th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1971. Legal and constitutional rights, legal or constitutional rights. 265 Part 12, no tax levied except by authority of law. 300A Part 12, no deprivation of property except by authority of law. 301 Part 13, trade commerce throughout country be free. बात करें DPSP की तो इट इज टेकन फ्रॉम आयरिश कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, कंसिडर्ड इंस्ट्रूमेंट ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन. इट इज मोरल ऑब्लिगेशन ऑन स्टेट, कवर्स आर्टिकल 36 to Article 51. It is novel feature and both DPSP and fundamental rights together are considered philosophy and soul of the constitution. DPSP is divided into socialist principle, Gandhian principles and liberal principles. Socialist principles, social justice, Article 41, वर्क, एजुकेशन, पब्लिक असिस्टेंस के बारे में बात करता है. आर्टिकल 42, ह्यूमन कंडीशन एंड मैटरनिटी रिलीफ. आर्टिकल 43, स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग. आर्टिकल 43A, पार्टिसिपेशन ऑफ वर्कर्स, इंसर्टेड थ्रू 44th कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट ऑफ 1976. आर्टिकल 47, न्यूट्रिशन एंड पब्लिक हेल्थ. बात करें इकोनॉमिक जस्टिस की, सो आर्टिकल 38, इंसर्टेड थ्रू 44th कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट ऑफ 1978, सेज मिनिमाइज इनइक्वालिटी and introduced welfare justice. Article 39, livelihood, equitable distribution of wealth and concentration of wealth के बारे में बात करता है. Article 39A, free legal aid to poor, inserted all this Article 39 and Article 39A inserted through 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. Gandhian principles. Article 40, village panchayat. Article 43, cottage industry. Article 43B, cooperative societies, inserted through 97th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2011. Article 46, social justice, education in economic interest of OBC, ST and SC. Article 47, prohibit intoxicants and Article 48, prohibit slaughter. Liberal principles. Article 44, UCC, Uniform Civil Code. Article 45, early childhood and education. Article 48, agriculture and animal husbandry. Article 48A, environment and forest safeguard. 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. Article 49, protect monuments. Article 50, separate judiciary. Article 51, peace, security and internal disputes की बात करता है. 86th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002 made elementary education a fundamental rights under Article 21A. Fundamental rights और DPSP conflict. चंपकम केस 1951 में fundamental rights prevail over DPSP. Golaknath 1967, Parliament can abrogate fundamental rights by Constitutional Amendment Act. 25th Constitutional Amendment Act IR 1971, no law that implement DPSP, that is Article 39B and C, shall be void. Keswananda Bharti case 1973, basic structure. Minerva Mills case 1980, DPSP made subordinate, but Article 19 and 14 accepted as subordinate to DPSP. DPSP outside Part 4, Article 335, Part 16, claims of ST/SC to service, Article 350A, Part 17, instruction in mother tongue, Article 351, Part 17, develop Hindi language. Fundamental duties inserted through 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976, Part 4A, Article 51A. Borrowed from USSR, Karan Singh Committee 1976 recommended fundamental duties. It is confined to citizens only and it is non-justiciable. वर्मा कमेटी ऑब्जर्वेशंस 1989 में लीगल प्रोविजंस जैसे प्रिवेंशन ऑफ इंसल्ट टू ऑनर एक्ट 1971, प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ सिविल राइट्स एक्ट 1955, यूएपीए 1967 एंड आरपीए 1951, WPA 1972 and Forest Act 1980, punishment for encouragement of enmity between different sections. Amendments to Constitution Amendment Bill इंट्रोड्यूस कहाँ हो सकता है? इधर हाउस में, लोकसभा और राज्यसभा, बाय ईदर मिनिस्टर और प्राइवेट मेंबर. No prior permission of president is required for constitutional amendment bill. Special majority लगती है. Total membership 2/3 present in voting. No joint sitting in case of disagreement or deadlock. If the bill seeks to amend federal structure, it requires ratification of state by simple majority 1/2. Presented to president. He can neither return nor withhold, but he has to give assent. Constitutional amendments to Constitution under Article 368, Part 20. Amendments by simple majority: quorum, member of parliament, salaries and allowances, privileges, English language, cuisine judge, citizenship, election to parliament and state legislature, 2nd, 5th and 6th schedule, delimitation. By special majority, 2/3 present in voting, fundamental rights and DPSP and others not included under simple majority and special majority with state ratification. स्पेशल मेजॉरिटी जिसमें स्टेट रेटिफिकेशन की ज़रूरत पड़ती है उसमें इंक्लूडेड है प्रेसिडेंट इलेक्शन, एग्जीक्यूटिव पावर, लेजिस्लेटिव पावर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, SC and HC, सुप्रीम कोर्ट एंड हाई कोर्ट, GST, 7th शेड्यूल, रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ स्टेट्स इन पार्लियामेंट, पावर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट टू अमेंड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एंड प्रोसीजर, दैट इज आर्टिकल 368 इटसेल्फ. बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर की बात करें तो आप SGKM याद रखें. शंकरी प्रसाद 1951, राइट टू प्रॉपर्टी वॉज कर्टेल्ड. Golaknath case 1967, constitutional amendment is also a law within Article 13. Keswananda Bharti case 1973, basic structure or constitutional amendment is law. Minerva Mills case 1980, judicial review is basic structure. Basic structure के कुछ एग्जाम्पल हैं: पावर ऑफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट एंड हाई कोर्ट, रूल ऑफ लॉ, इक्वालिटी, लिमिटेड पावर्स ऑफ पार्लियामेंट टू अमेंड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, प्रिंसिपल्स अंडरलाइंग फंडामेंटल राइट्स, फ्री एंड फेयर इलेक्शन एक्सेट्रा. पार्लियामेंट्री सिस्टम की बात करें सो इंडिया, जापान और कनाडा में हमें देखने को मिलेगा. पार्लियामेंट्री सिस्टम ऑफ स्टेट आर्टिकल 163 and 164. पार्लियामेंट्री सिस्टम ऑफ सेंटर आर्टिकल 75 and 74. Executive is responsible to legislature. Majority party rule, nominal and real executive, president who is de jure and prime minister de facto. Prime minister is considered primus inter pares, first among equals. Article 75 talks about collective responsibility. Lok Sabha can remove council of ministers by passing non-confidence motion. Political hegemony होती है, double membership, dissolution of lower house by president on recommendation of prime minister. Federal system की बात करें तो federalism is nowhere used in constitution. Federal system is based on Canadian model from formation, union and to centralizing tendency. Division of power between center and state. India unitary state to regional autonomy by the way of disintegration. Omai case, federalism is basic structure 1994. सिस्टम की फीचर्स की बात करें तो बाइकैमरलिज्म, डुअल पॉलिटी, रिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, डिवीजन ऑफ पावर, सुप्रीमेसी ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, रिजिड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एंड इंडिपेंडेंट जुडिशियरी. यूनिटरी फीचर्स जैसे स्ट्रॉन्ग सेंटर, स्टेट्स नॉट इंडेस्ट्रक्टेबल, नो इक्वालिटी ऑफ स्टेट रिप्रेजेंटेटिव, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी and emergency provisions, single constitution, citizenship, single citizenship, all India services, integrated judiciary and audit machinery, parliamentary authority over state lists, appointment of governor by president, veto over state bills. Governor reserves certain state bills for president's consideration who enjoy absolute veto. President can withhold the bill even in second instance. सेंटर स्टेट रिलेशंस की बात करें तो बात करते हैं सबसे पहले लेजिस्लेटिव रिलेशंस की अंडर 245 टू आर्टिकल 255 पार्ट 11 टेरिटोरियल एक्सटेंट लॉज नॉट एप्लीकेबल ऑफ पार्लियामेंट इन 4 एरियाज हैं 5 यूटीज अंडर प्रेसिडेंट schedule areas under governor, tribal areas of Assam under governor, and tribal areas of Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram under president. Distribution of legislative powers, union, state, and concurrent list. 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976 transferred 5 subjects from state list to concurrent list. These are education, forest, weights and measures, protection of wildlife, wild animals, and administration of justice. 101st Constitutional Amendment Act of 2016 introduced GST, parliamentary legislation in state. During 5 extraordinary situations, when Rajya Sabha passes a resolution with 2 by 3 present and voting for 1 year in national interest, national emergency can only repealed and amended by parliament. When state make a request, when 2 or more states make a request to implement international agreement during president's rule, the laws or the legislations made during president's rule operate even after the revocation of the rules. Parliamentary control over state legislature. Governor reserves bill for president's assent. Certain bills introduced only with prior recommendation of president. Center can direct state to reserve money bill during financial emergency. बात करें एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रिलेशंस की सो इसमें इंक्लूडेड है आर्टिकल 256 टू आर्टिकल 263 पार्ट 11. It talks about distribution of executive power between union list, state list, and concurrent list. Obligation of state and center. 2 restrictions of executive power of state is to ensure compliance with laws made by parliament, not to impede exercise of executive power of center, which is specific. Center's direction to state. Maintenance of communication, railways, mother tongue in elementary, schemes for welfare of ST. Mutual delegation of function, intergovernmental delegation. Center can use agreement or legislations. States can only use agreements. Cooperation between center and state. Parliament, redressal of water disputes. Interstate council by president under Article 263. Interstate council by president under Article 263. All India Services and Public Service Commission. All India Services is jointly controlled by states and center. Public Service Commission, जिसके chairman और members are appointed by governor, but they are removed by president. Parliament can establish JPSC, Joint Public Service Commission, integrated judiciary system by single system of court, eliminate diversities. Parliament can establish common court for 2 or more states. Judge of High Court appointed by president, CJI in consultation with CJI and governor. Other provisions जैसे Article 355 duty on center to protect state and ensure state is carried on with provision mentioned in constitution. State Election Commission is appointed by governor and removed by president. Extra constitutional devices to promote cooperation and coordination. Advisory like Niti Aayog, zonal councils, conferences जैसे CM's council, governor's council. Relations during emergency, state under direct control. फाइनेंशियल रिलेशंस की बात करें सो इसमें इंक्लूडेड है आर्टिकल 268 टू आर्टिकल 293. एलोकेशन ऑफ टैक्सिंग पावर, यूनियन लिस्ट, स्टेट लिस्ट एंड कॉन्करेंट लिस्ट. रिस्ट्रिक्शन ऑन टैक्सिंग पावर ऑफ स्टेट. सर्विसेज आउटसाइड स्टेट, import and export. Tax not exceeding 2500 rupees per annum. Electricity consumed or sold by center. Railway under center. President assent to tax water or electricity. Distribution of tax revenue. 80th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2000 giving effect to 10th Finance Commission. 101st Constitutional Amendment Act of 2016 introduced GST regime. Alternate scheme of devolution. 29% of total income to states. Distribution of non-tax revenue. Center, railway, banking, CPSC, post and telegraphs. States, irrigation, fisheries, SPSC, forest and estates. Grants in aid. Statutory under Article 275. States to states in need in recommendation of Finance Commission. Discretionary grants under Article 282. Both center and states to make grants for public purpose under no obligation. Other grants in aid for temporary period in lieu of export duties on jute for 10 years on recommendation of Finance Commission. GST under Article 279A, President to constitute the GST Council. Finance Commission under Article 280, quasi judicial body है, constituted by President. Protection of states' interest. Certain bills introduced in Parliament only with recommendation of President. Borrowings by center and state. State cannot receive loans without center's consent. Intergovernmental tax immunity. Center and state property. Center can impose custom duty on goods imported by state, can impose excise duty that is manufactured by state. बात करें इमरजेंसी की, ड्यूरिंग नेशनल इमरजेंसी प्रेसिडेंट कैन मॉडिफाई कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, reduce or cancel the grants or devolution. During financial emergency, center direct states to observe specified canons and reserve all financial bills. Trends क्या रहे हैं सेंटर स्टेट रिलेशंस के? तो इट वाज स्मूथ टिल 1967. कमिटीज की बात करें तो आप अ रॉ एसपी याद रखें, अ रॉ एसपी. ए से एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रिफॉर्म कमीशन 1966, जिसके चेयरमैन थे मोरारजी देसाई. राजमन्नार कमेटी 1969, तमिलनाडु गवर्नमेंट डीएमके. अनंतपुर साहिब रेजोल्यूशन 1973, अकाली दल. वेस्ट बंगाल मेमोरेंडम 1977 by West Bengal government. सरकारिया कमीशन 1983, स्ट्रॉन्ग सेंटर इज एसेंशियल. इंटरस्टेट काउंसिल अंडर आर्टिकल 263, जोनल काउंसिल की बात करी, और 3 लैंग्वेज फार्मूला इन ट्रू स्पिरिट शुड बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड. फिर बात करते हैं पुंछी कमीशन की, ए रॉ एसपी का पी, पुंछी कमीशन 2007. कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म अंडर मदन मोहन मालविया. इंटरस्टेट रिलेशंस की बात करें, so interstate water disputes under article 262 and interstate council under article 263. Interstate water dispute constituted by parliament by law, neither SC nor HC to have their jurisdiction. River Boards Act 1956 में on request of state. Interstate Water Dispute Act ad hoc tribunal decisions are final and binding. SC jurisdiction if legal rights are concerned. Interstate Council article 263 by President on public interest. By President on public interest. Interstate Water Dispute Act, Parliament by law, or Interstate Council by President on public interest. It is advisory council. They meet thrice a year. It is a recommendation of Sarkaria Commission, VP Singh government. Interstate Council के members की बात करें तो CM of all states, 6 central cabinet members, chairman should be prime minister, administrators of UTs, governors of states under president's rule. Members की बात करें Interstate Council की, so CM of all states, 6 central cabinet members, चेयरमैन होते हैं प्राइम मिनिस्टर, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स ऑफ यूटी, गवर्नर्स ऑफ स्टेट्स अंडर प्रेसिडेंट्स रूल. स्टैंडिंग कमिटी ऑफ काउंसिल 1996, जिसके चेयरमैन यूनियन मिनिस्टर होते हैं. इंटरस्टेट ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स आर्टिकल 301 टू आर्टिकल 307. आर्टिकल 301, ट्रेड इंटरकोर्स कॉमर्स थ्रू आउट country shall be free. Both parliament and state legislature can apply restrictions on public interest. State legislature require prior permission of president. Subject to nationalization law. Provides for monopolies in favor of center and states. Provide for monopolies in favor of center and states. Zonal Council. It is a statutory body under States Reorganization Act. Central, Northern, Western, Eastern, Southern. 5 zones हैं. चेयरमैन होते हैं होम मिनिस्टर एंड सीएम एज वाइस चेयरमैन ऑन रोटेशन. एडवाइजर्स होते हैं विदाउट राइट टू वोट. ऑब्जेक्टिव है इमोशनल इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ कंट्री, अरेस्ट ग्रोथ ऑफ रीजनलिज्म, लिंग्विज्म, political equilibrium, attain political equilibrium, and address after effects of separation. Northeastern Zonal Council, separate act से बना, Northeastern Council Act of 1971. It covers 8 states. Unified Regional Plan of National Importance. बात करते हैं emergency provisions की. Article 352 to Article 360 under Part 18. It converts federal structure into unitary without formal amendment. National emergency की बात करें तो Article 352, external war or external aggression, internal under armed rebellion. It is declared by President, approval within 1 month of both the houses by special majority 2/3 present and voting. If Lok Sabha dissolves, it survives 30 days. Meantime, Rajya Sabha has approved it. Duration 6 months. Can be extended to infinite period with approval of Parliament every 6 months. Revocation done by President requires no parliamentary approval. President must revoke if Lok Sabha pass written resolution or when House is not in session. President should call special sitting within 14 days. Laws becomes inoperative after emergency is revoked. Revocation only Lok Sabha and with simple majority. Effects क्या क्या होते हैं national emergency under Article 252 के? So center state relations, center gives executive directions, Parliament overriding powers over state list, inoperative after 6 months of emergency, President can modify distribution of revenue, order is laid before Parliament. Life of Lok Sabha and State Assembly. Parliament can extend life for 1 year at a time for any length, not beyond 6 months expiry of emergency. Fundamental rights under Article 368 extended to whole country. 6 rights under Article 19 automatically suspended only during war and external aggression. State legislature can take any action affecting fundamental rights and it cannot be challenged. Article 20 and 21 cannot be suspended, inserted during, says 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978. Article 359, President can suspend right to move to Supreme Court for enforcement of fundamental rights. Seek remedy is suspended. May be entire or part. President's rule की बात करें तो Article 356, when state cannot be carried in accordance with constitutional provision. Article 365 says when state fails to give effect to any senator's direction. President rule का approval both houses within 2 months by simple majority. Continue for 6 months and maximum for 3 years. Approval every 6 months. Revoked by president. No approval of parliament. Laws made during president rule continues. Laws made during president's rule continues even after revocation. Bomai case. Satisfaction of president must be based on relevant material. To dissolve state legislative council, parliamentary approval is required. Otherwise, president can only suspend. Rule. President's rule is proper when hung assembly, no majority party. Ministry resign, no other majority party is found. Majority party but declines to form ministry. Physical breakdown or internal subversion. Physical breakdown or internal subversion. बात करते हैं फाइनेंशियल इमरजेंसी की. सो फुल कंट्रोल ओवर स्टेट्स फाइनेंशियल मैटर्स. आर्टिकल 360, अप्रूवल बाय बोथ द हाउसेस विद इन 2 months बाय सिंपल मेजॉरिटी. कंटिन्यूज indefinitely till revoked. It is revoked by president and no parliamentary approval is required. 38th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1975, President can issue different proclamation. 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976 says limit President's rule to specified part. 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978, President's rule only after written recommendation of Cabinet. Substituted internal disturbance with armed rebellion. 44th Constitutional Amendment Act substituted internal disturbance with armed rebellion. Satisfaction of President is not beyond judicial review. Minerva Mills case 1980, national emergency can be challenged on the ground of malafide. बात करते हैं प्रेसिडेंट की, तो इसमें आते हैं आर्टिकल 52 टू आर्टिकल 78 पार्ट 5 ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. President is nominal executive, de jure, indirectly elected by electoral college. Electoral college constitutes elected members of both the houses of parliament, legislative assembly of UTs, Delhi and Puducherry, by a system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote by secret ballot. Impeachment for violation of constitution. Impeachment में members present होते हैं वो हैं elected members of both the houses, लोक सभा and राज्य सभा, nominated members of both the houses, लोक सभा and राज्य सभा. President का impeachment can be initiated by either house. 1 by 4 members signed charges. 14 days notice to president. Passed by 2 by 3 total membership. President has right to appear and to be represented. Oath CJI दिलाता है and in his absence senior most judge of Supreme Court. Qualifications जैसे citizen होने चाहिए, 75 years of age, qualified to become member of Lok Sabha, no office of profit. Nomination subscribed by 50 electors as proposers and 50 as seconders. बात करें वैकेंसी की. Vacancy due to expiration, the president continues till the successor assumes the charge. Vacancy due to absence or illness, vice president becomes or acts as president. RRDD, resignation, removal, death or disqualification, vice president acts as president. Otherwise, or during the absence of vice president, CJI acts as president, or in absence of CJI, senior most judge of Supreme Court. बिल जो पार्लियामेंट में ओरिजिनेट होती है, if passed again has to give assent. स्टेट लेजिस्लेटर में अगर कोई सी बिल पास होती है और गवर्नर ने रिजर्व कर रखा है प्रेसिडेंट के लिए, if passed again, president is not obliged to give assent. He enjoys pocket veto. Constitutional amendment bill, if presented to president, he has no veto. Powers क्या क्या हैं? Executive, legislative and financial, judiciary, military, emergency and diplomatic. Executive powers की बात करें, so president appoints prime minister, attorney general of India, comptroller and auditor general of India, CEC, chief election commissioner, chairman and members of UPSC, governor, chairman of finance commission. Directly administer UTs, declare schedule areas, Powers with respect to tribal areas. Legislative powers like summon and prorogue parliamentary sessions, dissolves Lok Sabha, nominates 12 members of Rajya Sabha. Question on disqualification of MOP, members of parliament, has to consult election commission. Financial powers like president recommend demand for grants, advances out of contingency fund, constitutes finance commission every 5 years. Judiciary powers like appoint judges of Supreme Court, High Court and CJI. Military, Supreme Commander of Defense Forces, emergency provisions, Article 256 and 265. Diplomatic agreements on his name. बात करें वीटो पावर्स की, सो एब्सोल्यूट वीटो, he can withhold the bill with respect to private bill and government bill when cabinet resign. Suspensive veto, to return, passed again obligatory, money bill cannot return. Pocket veto, keeps bill pending infinitely, no time period described. Ordinance making power की बात करें, so article 123, that is 123, nature of temporary laws हैं ordinances, not discretionary powers, only on advice of council of ministers, can be retrospective, cannot substitute state legislative powers, मैक्सिमम लाइफ होगी 6 months या 6 weeks. 4 लिमिट्स की बात करें, सो बोथ और ईदर हाउस इज नॉट इन सेशन. सेटिस्फैक्शन, जुडिशियल रिव्यू हो सकता है. को एक्सटेंसिव, सेम कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल लिमिटेशंस, सीजेस विद 6 months ऑफ रीअसेंबली. पार्डनिंग पावर्स की बात करें अंडर आर्टिकल 72 ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट, इट इज एन एग्जीक्यूटिव पावर. पार्डनिंग पावर इज एन एग्जीक्यूटिव पावर ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट. पार्डन completely absolves convict, commute lighter form, remit reduce period from 2 years to 1 year or 4 years to 1 year, respite lesser award due to special facts, example pregnancy, reprieve stay for temporary period. No judicial review unless malified or irrational, exercised on advice of cabinet. 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, President bound by advice of Council of Ministers. 44th Constitutional Amendment Act, reconsidered advice is binding on President. वाइस प्रेसिडेंट की बात करें तो ओथ गिवन बाय प्रेसिडेंट. क्वालिफिकेशन की बात करें तो ही शी शुड बी सिटीजन, अटेन्ड 35 years of age, qualified for election to Rajya Sabha, requires 20 electors as proposers and 20 as seconders, indirectly elected by electoral college. Elected and nominated members of parliament participate in election of vice president. Elected and nominated members of parliament, powers क्या क्या है? He is ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. When act as president, his duty is performed by deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha. बात करें रिमूवल ऑफ वाइस प्रेसिडेंट की तो रिजोल्यूशन ओनली इन राज्य सभा विद 14 days नोटिस. सिंपल मेजोरिटी इन लोक सभा, इफेक्टिव मेजोरिटी इन राज्य सभा. नो ग्राउंड इज मेंशन्ड. बात करते हैं प्राइम मिनिस्टर की. आर्टिकल 75, प्राइम मिनिस्टर अपॉइंटेड बाय प्रेसिडेंट, अदर मेंबर्स बाय प्रेसिडेंट ऑन द एडवाइस ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट. आर्टिकल 75 says प्राइम मिनिस्टर अपॉइंटेड बाय प्रेसिडेंट and other members appointed by president on advice of prime minister, leader of largest political party, vote of confidence within 1 month, term not fixed, under pleasure of president. Prime minister is real or de facto. Chairman of Niti Aayog, National Integration Council, Interstate Council. Relation to parliament, leader of lower house Lok Sabha, recommend dissolution of Lok Sabha to president. Article 78, minister as principal channel between council of ministers and president. Article 75, council of ministers to advise president. Relation to council of ministers, prime minister is head of council of ministers. Collapse of council of ministers by his resignation or death automatically dissolves COM. prime minister reshuffles portfolios. बात करते हैं council of ministers की. Article 74, council of ministers to advise president, not to be inquired. Even after dissolution of Lok Sabha, Council of Ministers doesn't vacate office. Article 75 that says other provisions so as to ministers. Prime Minister appointed by President and other minister by President on advice of Prime Minister. Total ministers including Prime Minister does not exceed 15% of total strength of Lok Sabha. Collective responsibility of Lok Sabha. Hold office under pleasure of President. Rajya Sabha passes no confidence motion against Council of Ministers. Ministers must resign Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Council of Ministers can advise President to dissolve Lok Sabha. President can remove ministers even when he is enjoying majority. Kitchen Cabinet, extra constitutional body, informal body है. Cabinet Committee, extra constitutional, mentioned in rules of business. Prime Minister is chairman of Political Affairs Committee, Economic Affairs Committee, Appointment Committee. पार्लियामेंट्री अफेयर्स कमेटी के चेयरमैन होते हैं होम मिनिस्टर, नॉट प्राइम मिनिस्टर. काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स के कॉम्पोजिशन की बात करें तो कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर्स, मिनिस्टर्स ऑफ स्टेट, independent or attached, deputy ministers attached to cabinet, parliamentary secretaries attached to senior most ministers. Article 77 talks about conduct of business of government of India, all executive action in the name of president. Article 78 duties of prime minister to communicate to president. हमने देखा काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स तक, दैट इज चैप्टर 19 आई गेस. Prime Minister is chairman of Political Affairs Committee, Economic Affairs Committee and Appointment Committee. But Parliamentary Affairs Committee के chairman होते हैं Home Minister. So हमने अभी तक कवर किया है चैप्टर 19 तक का एम लक्ष्मीकांत. मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए ऑल द बेस्ट. थैंक यू.